What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. Another week in the books, Bruce. And no, I know what everyone's thinking starting this off today. No, we did not have inside info on the UAB Temple game last night, but we bet the game, but we were not aware of what was going on. I don't know if you saw that this morning. I see. I can tell by the look on your face that you see
any
it.
Investigators watching.
Yeah. For the record, I don't know any players on Temple or we got UAB in the morning at I usually send out the picks between 10 and 11 a.m. Eastern, it's always before noon. I sent UAB minus 2.5 just because I like the play, like the game, and then I'm like at 4 o'clock. I usually before the day wraps up, I check and see did we get good CLV, how did these lines move. And usually in the NBA, it doesn't matter, but in college basketball, it does. And I see that 8.5, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Something happened, right? But then nothing happened. You look and everyone, the lineups are the same. Nobody's hurt. And then you start to see, the tweets start to trickle out.
Yeah.
And it's actually interesting this is happening now, and we'll just spend a minute on it, because if any of you who are watched Billy Walters on Joe Rogan's show, he talked about this with the Arizona State scandal. He talked about how gamblers were the people who uncovered the scandal because they watched the lines so hard, and they can tell when there's fishy movement in the lines, and they're the ones who notify the gaming commission, the authorities. It's always gamblers that find it first. So and now this happens, and that had all the telltale signs, a line moving 5 points for no reason. And when he was talking about it on the Billy Walters was kind of saying that usually it's people that come in from nowhere. It's they're not sharps. They're not a syndicate. They just come in and they're just hammering the side. And then you're like, why is this happening? Who are these people and why is this happening?
Who are these new accounts?
Exactly.
Coming out of nowhere. Their first bet is 10 grand.
Yeah. And it's such an obscure game. And then I saw some other info that because I guess if it's a one-off, it's that could happen. But I saw some stuff coming out about this isn't the first time. Apparently the unders in Temple games have been moving wildly, which I personally haven't noticed that because I'm not honed in on Temple basketball. But apparently
on Temple over unders.
Yeah. So apparently this is the first time that it happened with the side, because I guess maybe there was info, but it's supposedly been happening on Temple unders and first half unders. They've been dropping 4 or 5 points each time, and I guess it was just a bunch of them in a row to the point where somebody was like, "Hey, this is weird." So now they're investigating, and I wouldn't be surprised if they figure out a couple players are in on something. I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening, all over. Some people are just better at hiding it than others.
Yeah, I mean, there was a podcast I was listening to. I forgot. Sorry, can't credit it. Where they had a college quarterback on.
Yeah,
and he was approached by somebody that he believed to be in the mafia, and
I saw this. Yeah.
Right. And they were asking him to shave points. And, at the end, they were like, hey, they're all doing it. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh.
I think he was for Vanderbilt. So he was in the SEC.
Right.
And he was saying that a lot of big SEC programs are doing that. I'm like, whoa. So I did see that.
Our cards are no longer going to have SEC football on it.
Imagine it came out that Alabama or Kentucky's doing that's huge. I mean, that ain't Temple, but
right.
Anyway, but I mean, no matter what line you got, even if you took the 7.5, 8.5, UAB won by 30 points. So I guess something was going on, but anyway,
incredible. I mean, UFC had the same thing. James Krause was
that's right.
Was banned, and his team was, his camp was basically disbanded over the Derek Minner, Shai Leon Nerdem Beck.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Some of these names are impossible. Yeah,
we were in that fight, and we're like, why did the Shai Leon line just explode? And next thing you know, James Krause, who also had a Discord where he was giving out UFC picks, and I was in it, and I was like, "Yo, this doesn't make sense." So James Krause, for people who don't know, was a UFC fighter. He was good. He had a great camp, I think, down in St. Louis or somewhere in Missouri, and he had a Discord where he was giving out UFC picks.
It's kind of like Derek Brunson right now selling his hockey picks on Twitter.
Yo, shout out to Derek Brunson. Like, yo, make a living, man. That dude was getting knocked out over and over again. I was like, I'm glad you're doing picks.
I saw his page. He's the hockey goat, according to him. So
I can't watch Derek Brunson get knocked out again. I can't do it. Keep doing picks. Shout out to Derek Brunson.
It's a good career
Derek
move.
Brunson's hockey picks because I can't watch that man fight again.
Oh man. Yeah, crazy stuff. But this weekend we got a good college basketball slate. There's a great UFC 299 card. Amazing. There's some amazing fights. I know you're going to get into some that you like, but man, there's some really good matchups. And but I wanted to start with conference tournaments because they're actually already started. A lot of the smaller, more obscure tournaments have begun, like the Horizon League and stuff like that. But the bigger ones are going to kick off next week. And some of the odds aren't out yet, but one that is the West Coast Conference, and I want to talk about that one. We'll start with that. And I'm going to give you guys who I think is going to win the tournament. We're going to be taking Gonzaga at minus 115, and I'll explain a little bit as to why I like that. Usually with a future, you guys know, like try to avoid the minus odds, but I think in this case you're getting really, really good value. Couple of reasons why. I think this number would have been much higher if Gonzaga didn't have the season that they had, the way it played out. Because a lot of guys will remember their first matchup with St. Mary's, who's basically the other contender in the conference, was early in the season. Gonzaga was right around 500. They lost that game by 2 points, and they were really they hadn't clicked yet. They were figuring things out, and there was a lot of talk about how basically it's going to be a down year. This is like a reset year for Gonzaga. They lost a couple good players to the NBA,
right?
But then they just started to find the groove with Nembhard at point guard, the transfer from Creighton. Once he got going, that was it, and now they've been flying ever since. So I think this number would have been a lot higher if they didn't have that start to the season. And I think that once they win the first game, because they're going to win the first game of the tournament. Once they win that first game, this is going to jump, and really, you look at it, it's a two-team race. So I think you're getting like amazing value here for a couple of reasons. The only other team in this is St. Mary's. They're plus 105 to win the tournament. The next team after that is San Francisco at plus 1,200. So the odds are basically telling you that, hey, it's one of these two teams.
Right.
And if Gonzaga faces off in the championship of the tournament against St. Mary's, they're not going to be minus 115 on the money line. They're going to be much higher than that. And I mean, yes, anything could happen. It's March Madness, but Gonzaga is you can pretty much punch them into the final of this conference tournament. No one else below them other than St. Mary's is even really close. And even the last game they played when they went to St. Mary's, after now they've been in the groove, they went there as 2-point dogs and they blew them out. They won by 15. So right. I really don't think it's close in this conference. And I mean, historically, they have the experience. They have the coaching edge with Mark Few. I mean, since he's gotten there, they've won 21 out of 25 of these tournaments. They've won 10 out of the last 11. So, yes, it's different players year in, year out, but the coach is the same, and he knows what it takes to win. And I just think they have the talent edge. They have the experience edge. And at minus 115, I think once you get to the championship game, I could see the line being Gonzaga minus 2, minus 3. So that's going to be like a minus 140, minus 150 money line. Mm-hmm. I think you're getting good value with this. You could pretty much punch it in that it's going to be St. Mary's Gonzaga in the final. So I look at this as taking Zag's money line at minus 150. That's how I look at this. So
I think that's right. And I don't remember if it was last week or the week before we were talking about Gonzaga, and we were saying like how everybody thinks that it's going to be like a 2 to 3 team, sort of competitive space. Gonzaga ends up destroying everybody. So
exactly, yeah, they dominate this conference. Yeah,
right. Yeah, this is just representative of that. And yeah, if you can get minus 115. Granted, to get there, you need a few games to get some to get some value on that Zaga money line. But I think that's if you're betting a future and one that is likely to win, this is the one. Like you can get value on some bigger dogs there, but it's only value if the bet wins. That's what I always tell people, especially
true. Sports. And I just think at the end of the day, you got to think about what are their real odds of winning this, and I think it's much higher than that. Right. And I think St. Mary's, their odds of winning are not plus 105. If I could have got them as maybe a bigger dog, they might have been a value play. But I think at essentially almost a pick 'em, I think it's very clear who the better team is. And they've won 8 games in a row to end the season, so they're taking an 8-game winning streak. They're not really looked at, and they're a West Coast team. So every year, even in the year that they were undefeated, they got to the NCAA championship and they lost to Baylor that year. But even in that year, like, and ever since then, it's like everyone just thinks, oh, they'll get far and they'll fall flat at some point. But this year, the talk around them is kind of quiet, and that's what kind of makes me now like them, because it's not as loud.
Yep.
But they're quietly top 20 offense, top 20 defense. That's really what you look for. You want these balanced teams that can maybe be a sleeper or make a run.
Mm-hmm.
And the West Coast Conference will have 2 teams in the tournament. So, like, it's not like this conference tournament is going to decide who gets into the NCAA tournament. It'll probably be St. Mary's and Gonzaga. But I think that the experience, the coaching edge, and the talent edge now that their offense is cooking, because St. Mary's is really a defensive team, so I don't think they'll be able to keep up, similar to what you saw in their last matchup. So give me the Zags minus 115 to win the West Coast again. I think that's 4 straight. So this will be their 5th straight year winning this conference tournament if they pull it off. So that right now is what I'm looking at in terms of the conference tournaments. I know there's a couple of them ongoing right now, and there's a couple that don't have any odds out right now. Maybe next week, once they kick off and they have odds, we'll come back and I'll give you guys another one that I like.
Awesome.
Maybe in the SEC or something like that.
A little SEC shaving points. I wish there was a good. There's no college basketball video games anymore, right?
Nah, not anymore.
So
they're bringing back the college football game, right?
Yeah. Yes, they are. 2025.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah,
I'll
play that.
Purchasing that. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Those games were awesome. The NCAA games.
trying to be a Saban out here. Yeah. Okay. So we can't simulate the college tournament.
Yeah, that's right. No, we can't simulate it. Ah, man, because Madden was so accurate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a future. But the people want some action this weekend.
Yes, 100%.
What are you looking at?
Great. Okay. So, there's some huge games this weekend. A lot of season finales. Some teams have 2 games left. Some of these are season finales. A lot of revenge spots, which are always good in college basketball, especially when the teams are, relatively close in talent. And one of the games that I'll talk about is the biggest game probably the biggest game on the slate, North Carolina versus Duke. This one's going to be super interesting because these are 2 teams, right? Like, again, similar to the Gonzaga thing, Duke didn't start off the year really that great, but now they are unstoppable. I mean, they've won 19 out of their last 23. They come into this with a winning streak. And in the first game that they played, they went to North Carolina, and they lost by 9. They lost 93 to 84. North Carolina was, I think, -5 or 5.5 in that game, and they covered the spread.
Mm-hmm.
The projection right now is Duke -4. That's the look ahead. We'll see what they actually open up with tonight. I think it's going to be right around there, -4. I would play this line all the way up to 6, maybe even 6.5. I think Duke is the clear side in this one. Over the last 30 days, they're the number 1 team in the country. If you adjust the net rating. And in that same time span, North Carolina's 27th. You have the revenge spot, right? And also, if you just follow college hoops and you see UNC's recent games, they're playing with fire a little bit. They've had to come back in 2 of their last 3 games. They had double-digit deficits that they had to battle back from and win. And yeah, good teams can do that. They can kind of like coast a little bit through the first half, but not when you're going up against another really, really good team. So they kind of been escaping, good 3-point shooting lately, but that's always, you cannot sustain like 42, 43% shooting from 3. That's going to regress back down to like the average 37, 38%. So that's going to, maybe bite them this weekend. Plus, it's just a really tough road environment to play. Duke's red hot. They match up well. The first game, they came into that not really playing that well. I think this weekend we see a different story. So I like Duke to cover. Another thing that I'll mention too is that, like, basically, I think, let me just double check. I think they have one more game after this game. Oh no, this is the finale. This is the Duke's finale. So this game is basically decides who wins the ACC, because right now they're tied at the top. Mm-hmm. So the winner will win the regular season, right, conference, which, some people say, it's not that important. Maybe it counts for something, right? So this is kind of like the similar spot that I gave out earlier this weekend. If you guys don't follow us on TikTok or Instagram, I recommend going to follow there. Earlier in the week, I posted about the Tennessee South Carolina game, where that was basically for the SEC regular season, and Tennessee won it. We got a lucky cover with the dunk at the buzzer, but Tennessee covered and won, and they were like dominating the game the whole game, and decided in the last like 3 minutes, like, let's make it fun. So, but they were up by basically 12, 13 points the entire game. But that was a similar spot. That was a spot where a team was looking for revenge. They came in, they were favored. The regular season thing was conference championship was on the line. Similar spot here for Duke. So I like Duke. If you can get 4, great. I would play it up to probably 6.5 if it was me. We're probably going to play it. This is not like one of these hammer spots, but I'll definitely have a play on this game for sure.
As will I. Now, are there any other spots that you like this weekend outside of the Duke?
Yeah. There's a bunch of revenge spots. Take a look at Baylor, Texas Tech. Baylor won the first game, and Texas Tech has been really good at home. But one that I would look at is Creighton versus Villanova. That's a Big East game. Villanova really, really got killed with their previous game, right? They went to Seton Hall. They were 1-point dogs. We had them, and the line flipped to -1, so they were favorites. So they got some steam coming in on Nova. We beat the line. They end up losing the game. Really, really tough loss. They couldn't stop Seton Hall. And that was basically a battle of the bubble teams. Like, they're both firmly in the bubble. That was a huge win for Seton Hall. They probably get in now to the tournament, and Nova, I don't know. It would take them winning. They have to win this game against Creighton. But my problem is they went into Creighton earlier this year and they beat them in overtime. Creighton is the side looking for revenge. Creighton knows that Nova's on the ropes. There's, it's tough to describe. And by the way, the line is 1.5. Creighton -1.5. It's tough to describe in certain like ways when you handicap. There's sometimes systems, revenge angles, there's narratives, but then sometimes there's just like, I hate to say it, but just like the vibe is just off. And Nova just looks like a team that caught a little hot stretch, but now is like regressing back. Maybe they were overperforming a little bit and now it's regressing back to what they really are. And going up against a team that you've beaten already, it's really tough when you have 2 good teams to beat them twice in one season. It's like the NFL thing with divisional opponents. So I would look at Creighton this weekend, even though they're on the road. I think they're better positioned to win that game. So take a look at Creighton. That win would like firmly kick Nova out. So it would make it easier on the selection committee. Be like, all right, they're not getting in. So I like Creighton, but probably like Duke as the better play. But I would look at those games. I would look at Texas Tech. I would look at Creighton as well. So
that's 2 interesting comments. One, easier for the selection committee. That's going to come in on the referee notes. They're going to be like, okay.
That's
2,
right.
Something that you mentioned was like, hey, sometimes the vibes are just off. And
just off.
Some people will say that's like bullshit.
Yeah.
But there's plenty, like, it's between the art and science of capping. And there's art and science in pretty much anything that you can become an expert in. Right? Like, I was watching a video the other day, don't ask me why, about like making bread.
Yeah.
It's like my wife is making a ton of bread now. And like one of the things where like, hey, there's like a science to when the bread is ready. Like, you needed it and it's like ready to go. There's a science. Yeah. But when you do it over and over and over again, you actually just know when the bread, like, you grab it and you're like, oh, it's right. It's like, I don't have to really look for like it. The science is sort of passive now. It's like built in. Your science is built in.
Right.
So when you say like, hey, the vibes are off, it's not bullshit. It's like you've been doing this for so long and so many times that you have like an innate marker in your head on all of the things that are clicking, and the output is the vibes are off, but you're actually doing like a bunch of passive calculations along the way that get you to like the vibe is off.
Yes. So using the word vibe is probably not the best way to describe it, like because it just seems like, oh, it's a gut feeling, but it's a combination of exactly what you just said, like repetition, experience, watching the team play. Like you just. Exactly what you just said. That's actually a really good example. Like, some people can just know. Some people can just like touch the bread and know it's ready, right? Like that kind of thing.
And it's like, you touch the bread and you know it's ready because you've went through the checklist slowly 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And you're like explaining out the checklist, but now you can just touch it and be like, that's ready to bake. And
exactly, yeah.
And so when the Jeff, it's because he's done. He's done it 1,000 times, and he's like, vibes are off on this one.
After there's, and you know this, there's some games which for our like subscribers, we'll always include like a full analysis and detailed like whatever systems, whatever stats we're seeing. But there's some games that I'll just look at the line and I know we're playing it. And then the rest is like, let me go do the actual handicap, but I know which side to bet on already just by looking at the line. But to your point, yeah, like me touching right now, this is me touching the Villanova bread and being like, nah. It needs more time.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So I like Creighton in the game. But
all right.
But I would look at Duke as the main one. That's going to be the biggest game that everyone's going to be on. Take a look at Texas Tech, take a look at Creighton, and Gonzaga to win the West Coast. That's what I got for the show today.
Ooh-wee.
And now UFC 299. I think you have two. You have two for me here?
I'm going to go through every single fight on this card and give you a lean.
A lean on every fight.
Because this is the best card of the year.
Yeah, it's
I don't
really
know
good.
what they were thinking. Maybe they were just like off by one. You know when you're like doing math and you're like, oh fuck, I missed one. That's what they did. This should have been UFC 300.
Right.
This is the card of the year. I'm talking about stacked from top to bottom. That's talking really about Caitlin Chikagian versus Macy Barton. No, but
hey, they can fight. They can
throw down sticks. Caitlin is she's gonna be throwing those straights down the pipe. But what this card does represent thematically are mirror matches. Some cards, like last week was sort of like a showcase of the undefeateds. This card is very much putting people up that are very similar stylistically against each other. And I think the lines reflect that. If I'm looking down here, like Kevin Holland, Michael Page, almost even. Yeah. Peter Yan, Song Yadong, almost even. Curtis Blades, Xiao Almeida, almost even line. Like all the way down, Michael Olasheshek, Michelle Pahea, it's close to even. It's starting to separate, but these lines are really tight. These matchups are mirror matchups. So when you do that, you really have to identify either an edge in the fight flow of like, how do I think this fight's going to play out between these two? Or you have to have sort of an edge in understanding, like capping these fighters. It's like, hey, mirror match. How do they generally fare in these types of fights? So super interesting.
Yeah.
I will say we're not going to do a lean on the pod, Marlon Vera, Sean O'Malley, but I will give you folks the system. And Jeff, what's the system? What system do you think I'm going to talk about here?
I think since this is O'Malley Vera 2, that you're going to talk about the rematch system that we love.
Yeah, of course. The rematch system, boys. The goddamn rematch system. When a favorite wins the first fight, their chances of winning the second fight are extremely high. They're usually like plus 70%, but plus 60% when the dog wins the first fight and is now in the rematch. And Marlon Vera is plus 220 on the money line in a second fight that he's already won. He's already won it. So when we look at the rematch, you know what? I might be doing a breakdown of this. I don't know if it's going to end up on the card, but like, I'll just give you my thoughts here.
Yeah.
So you have the rematch system in play here. You also have that if you're looking at the fan angle here, you have to say initially Sean O'Malley, right?
Right.
But if you're tuned in, Marlon Vera has got some swag going in the media. My man is, first of all, got the fits going when it comes to his listen, these are real angles. All right.
I know. Trust me. I know.
He's getting sneakers sent to him from Action Bronson, the New Balance collab. He's getting, he's getting kit shipments sent in. You see him at the presser. Sean O'Malley looks like like Ric Flair combined with a clown, and Marlon Vera is out there with fits, and the crowd is going nuts for Marlon Vera. And basically, everybody's ignoring Sean O'Malley. So there's also an angle here. It's in Miami, right?
Yeah.
You got Sean O'Malley coming in.
Yep.
Not getting the love. maybe the UFC says Sean O'Malley's not the guy that we thought putting up numbers.
Right.
Like he may not be the next Conor McGregor from a social media and from, a press perspective. So there's a chance here that there's a flippening happening with Marlon Vera and Sean O'Malley when it comes to like overall swag level. Gotta give it a Cheeto.
Yeah.
Did he win the rematch? I mean, did he win the first fight? Yes. Messed up O'Malley's leg, knocked him out on the ground with ground and pound.
Yep.
And then you get the fandom. People are going nuts for Vera right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I
got a slight lean to Marlon Vera on this because
Gotcha.
of all three of those things. Don't know if it's going to be on the card. Don't know if I'm going to bet it. But I think it's Vera or pass. You don't lay minus 260 on a guy who literally got knocked out in the first fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Now he injured his leg, right? In the first fight, I think you were saying.
Yeah. So he injured his leg.
So is it like, do you look at that? Do you look at that at all as like, I don't want to say like a revenge angle, but like kind of like, oh, well, what if, do you look at the fighter who got injured, like coming into this is like, this time I'm not going to get injured. Let's like, what if I didn't get injured in the first fight? Or you think it's just like a pretty clean win?
Yeah. I mean, Vera was tagging him up with the leg kicks the whole first round. Like he was putting it on O'Malley. So I don't think that leg injury was like a fluke. Like
that's what I meant. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
He was putting in the work there. It's almost like was the leg injury in the Dustin Poirier.
Right.
Oh yeah. Was that fight?
Yeah.
A fluke? No, he beat him 3 times. It's like, some people just have the other person's number. So
true.
So something that I'll look at, I think it's dog or pass on this one. I would not do Sean O'Malley money line. Sean O'Malley by decision, I think could be open. Vera is very sturdy, and he can take. I
saw even Sugar Sean was saying he's hard to put away.
Yeah, dude's hard to put away. So like, I wouldn't do a prop by like O'Malley by TKO. If you're looking at the O'Malley wins by decision, it's minus plus 125. So that's what Vegas thinks is the most likely outcome here.
Okay.
But I would go dog or pass on this one. Over 5 rounds, Marlon Vera does pick it up. In 3-round fights, I'm scared of Marlon Vera. He's a slow starter. So like he can let the first 1.5 kind of get away from him as he's picking up steam. But once he figures you out, he's dangerous. And I think over a 5-round fight, that could be really interesting.
Gotcha.
So I'm dog or pass on this one.
Gotcha.
I know
it's tough.
Just a quick one, but I ended up doing the whole thing. So
that's great. I mean, those are good insights. And plus it's hard. I mean, from what we've seen, like it's hard for these guys to really defend these championships. I mean, it's almost like you get your shot and then you pull it off and then you'll have a letdown in the next fight almost. Or maybe you defend it once and then you kind of like fall off. It's like kind of like a revolving door in some of these divisions of champions. So
yes. And the 135ers, killer division.
Yeah.
I think whoever wins this is going to have to fight what's his name? Corey Sandhagen after he gets back. Now Corey hasn't fought Sean O'Malley yet, but he's beat Marlon Vera. He's beat pretty much anybody who's anybody in that division. He is really good.
Yeah.
He's my dark horse. I think I'm going to be on a Corey Sandhagen championship bet this year after that.
Okay.
After that bicep heals, that dude is, and he has a pretty funny like YouTube channel. Like if you're like interested in training,
does
MMA,
he?
Yeah, he has a lot of like he like gives you like MMA training tips.
Okay,
and you can tell like my man is a dog. Yeah. Okay, so that's one. Screw it.
All right, so that's kind of the your insights on the main event and your lean. All right, well, what about some official picks?
Okay, I'm gonna talk about 2 guys that just want to power double leg you and bring you to the floor about 600 times a match. And that is Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida. Now, this fight was scheduled back in November, was canceled, getting rebooked for this one. This is, just to set the stage, this is pretty much Jailton Almeida's career-defining fight, where if he gets this one, he's likely in contention for a title shot in the next 2 to 3 title shots. He's right there. He's been powering up the ranks. The fight is even right now. We got minus 110 money line on both sides. Let me give you Jailton Almeida's last couple of lines. Okay? Actually, I want you to guess. What do you think he was money line against Derek Lewis?
Probably a big favorite. Let's go minus 230.
Closing range minus 530.
It was that high? Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The lowest book had him at minus 420. Okay. What about Jairzinho Rosenstrike? So this is earlier. I'm in descending order. I'm going earlier and earlier in his career.
Okay.
Versus Rosenstrike. Our boy, Biggie Boy. Got us a dub. 2-1 in the last pod.
That was good. That was a good. That was a good performance from him.
Yeah.
I'll go like minus 350.
Okay. Closing line. You got close to the opening line. Closing line minus 549.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I'll give you one more, so we're not spending the whole time on this.
Yeah.
Jailton versus Shamil Abdurakhmanov.
See, I'm not too familiar with him, so I don't know. But that's got to be a huge line, I would think. I'll go 500.
Closing line minus 1350.
Who's betting these? Someone's laying 10,000 to win 1,000.
Dude, it was me. No. So when we're talking about line value here, and then and one more guess, what was the closing line? It got killed pretty early on. So like, what was the opening line for Jailton and Curtis Blades in November?
Oh, the first time they fought?
Yeah.
I'll say 200.
Minus 188. Yeah.
Okay.
So this line opens even. And my question is, what changed?
Yeah. That's a curious one.
What changed? The only thing, Curtis Blades didn't fight anybody, and Jailton Almeida beat up Derek Lewis. So what happened?
Weird.
What happened? Nothing happened, guys. Nothing happened. Jailton is supremely athletic. He's an excellent grappler. And he was actually able to survive and get Derek Lewis to the floor without taking damage. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
It's like, if Derek Lewis can just stay on his feet just long enough to land something big on Jailton, that's scary, right? Like, he can knock him out. But Jailton weathered the storm there, was able to get Derek Lewis to the floor. Remember, Derek Lewis maybe landed the knockout of the century on Curtis Blades. And we had Derek Lewis in that fight at plus 300.
Yeah.
And he erased. He gave Curtis Blades a stutter.
That was an insane knockout.
So what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at a supreme athlete, likely somebody who's going to end up fighting for the UFC heavyweight championship. I'm getting him at even money. I'm getting the best line you're likely ever going to get on him until he fights for the championship.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you stray away from this. Like, Curtis Blades is an excellent wrestler in his own right, but he's not that great of a striker, right? So if this stays on, if this stays on the feet, I think that's a very close fight. But if it gets to the ground, Jailton Almeida is an animal off of his back.
Yeah.
Top pressure is insane. If you look at Curtis Blades, he has a ton of takedowns on his resume, but his control time per takedown is actually pretty low. Like, people get up on Curtis Blades, and he sort of chain wrestles you throughout the fight, which is why he's able to land like 8, 10, break the heavyweight record for takedowns, I think, until Jailton did it. But he doesn't hold you there. Like once you get down to the floor with Jailton, you're there for the entire round. So when it comes to the wrestling edge, I'm giving it to Jailton. When it comes to the striking, I'm going to say it's a push, maybe a small edge to Curtis Blades. But overall, when you're looking at this line, you're getting Jailton Almeida at even money. You do it. Take it. And I know I said that with Volk, but I mean it this time.
Well, you can't get them all right. But I think that's interesting that it's interesting that the first fight was like minus 180 and then they cancel it, they push it, and then now it's suddenly, I mean, just based on that, you could argue that there's value on that side because why would it have been there in the first place, you know?
Right.
So I like the pick. I totally makes sense to me, especially the stylistic matchup. So I like that one. Almeida minus 108 right now, it looks like. Yep.
And that's all I'm going to do because I think our card is going to have like 37 units of UFC this weekend. So
that's going to be huge. Yeah. I mean, there's so many good fights, but I like that pick. And then plus, I mean, dog or nothing for you on the main event. So there's, we went over that. That's some good stuff too. But Jailton Almeida, so you're going to rock with that. Oh, yeah, I was trying to figure out who was Blades' last. It was Pavlovich that he got knocked out by, right?
Yes.
That's who it was. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And, he couldn't take down Pavlovich. Good
That's what I was
Roman guy.
Trying to remember.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how you look at that line and say that there's not value on Jailton there.
Yeah. Makes total sense to me.
But
all right. Love it.
Fights to look out for that we'll have on the card. Michael Olashechuk versus Michelle Bahia. We got an angle there, maybe a total. We are going to be looking at the Kevin Holland Michael Page fight, JDM Gilbert Burns, and Piryan Song Yadong, I think, are all fights that we're going to have on the card. And also maybe Ion and Felipe Lins. So it's going to be stacked.
What were the notes? What were the notes on that one? They both suck.
Yeah, we got to pick one matches. My notes for Ion and Felipe Lins were like both suck equally.
Yeah.
And the one that I wanted to talk about, just to close us out, that we had really early on, I don't know if we sent it out to some of the folks early, but it was Benoit Saint Denis, Dustin Poirier. That opened up plus 140 to Benoit. We loved it then. Then Insane. It went to minus 150, and we said, okay, that's kind of crazy, but we really do believe that Benoit is going to win this fight. Yeah. And now it's up to minus 225.
Insane.
At this point, the value's fallen back on Dustin. It's like, I don't know if I can't tell you guys to put a minus 225 bet on Benoit. I thought he was going to win that fight, but boy, did money come in on this dude. Did all France bet on him? Who knows Benoit Saint Denis but this podcast? Did you guys do it? Who did it? How are we getting here?
And usually when you have a line steam up like that, like the market will correct itself. Like if there's a bunch of sharps or pros or guys like us that are saying like, oh, this really should be like minus 200. So they jump on it. And then when it gets to 200, everyone starts to see the other side. And then but it just keeps going. It's like, what is the true line?
It's going to be like minus 250 on fight night.
Crazy.
It's going to be
insane.
Incredible. I don't know how in good conscience you can take that line for Benoit.
Yeah.
Given that like the last guy he fought was like, I forgot. He's
it's nuts.
Knocking people out, but
then
he got crushed. Benoit Saint Denis. Let me get it for you guys real quick.
Yeah.
So the last guy he fought was Matt Frivola.
That's right. Yeah.
Who was like barely ranked. He might have been 15 in that fight, but he's like a 15 to 20 guy.
Right.
It's like, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a step up in competition, but
huge step up.
Yeah, I mean, but the line, I mean, it won't stop. I mean, maybe they look at him as kind of like a freight train through this division.
That's what I see him as. But
so you guys called it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, no matter how much you love a bet, you got to have, I could love, I don't know, the Nuggets last night, but they were minus 1, right? But if they were minus 10, would I have bet it? No. So, makes sense. All right, cool. So we're going with Jailton Almeida. Dog or nothing on the main event. We'll have a bunch of UFC picks on the card. We're going to have a bunch of college basketball plays. There's a lot of great games. Duke is the one I want you guys to take a look at when it opens up tonight. -4, -6.5 or better to me. Would play it. And Gonzaga for the West Coast. That's the future. And that's all we got. You good, man? You got anything else?
I'm going to go get a pair of Action Bronson New Balances and wear them.
I got to check those out. I haven't even seen them yet.
Yeah.
I got to add a New Balance to my collection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're ugly in like a dope way.
Okay, cool. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck with your best this weekend. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Later.